if I were ever to do a book reading in this space, I would prefer it be from one of the various books I've written. But today I'm making an exception.
Oh, I like it.
I got to share something with you from page 230 of Out of the Darkness: The Mystery of Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron is the greatest thrower of the football ever, though Patrick Mahomes is starting to challenge that. NBC analyst Chris Simms, a former NFL quarterback and Belichick assistant, said for this book, I always fight the critics and say, you don't think Aaron Rodgers would have won 6 Super Bowls with the Patriots? I'm a guy who thinks they would have won 10 in a row with Aaron Rodgers as quarterback of the Patriots. Has there ever been an organization that has failed a guy more than the Green Bay Packers have failed him? That's just part of it.
I was going to ask
you. Know?
Did
you realize?
I did. I had a feeling, I did, and I was wondering if I was in there or not, and I was going to ask you, but I was like, I'll just let him come to it, naturally. But hey, I'm proud. You know my thoughts. Aaron Rodgers in his prime, I will say, is as good as anybody I've ever seen in the sport. There is no doubt about that, right? I know we can have certainly some conversations about leadership and all of that, but I think when we talk about Green Bay in their prime, it was like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is coming to town. Who's on defense? I don't know. It's Aaron Rodgers. And as I've always told you, when I first started my podcast and all that, if I asked 100 defensive players who the best player they played against, I couldn't get the question out of my mouth without people saying Aaron Rodgers. He's a very special, special player. But, hey, what's gone on with his life now, lack of Super Bowl wins and all of that certainly – has taken the luster off of him to a degree.
And I'll be completely candid here. I have not made it to page 230 of the book naturally. I texted Ian O'Connor saying, thanks for sending the book. Good luck. Congrats. And he said, oh, by the way, your partner has some interesting comments in there about Rodgers and Brady. I said, look, I know them all by heart. I could probably quote for you without reading the book what Chris Simms had to say about Rodgers.
Brady used to go around and tell people that if Aaron Rodgers played for his New England Patriots teams, he'd throw for 6,000 yards every year. He used to say that all the time to people, right? Everybody was in awe of Aaron Rodgers. I'll tell you a story about my dad when Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre was getting the end of his career. Dad, of course, is announcing games, Big Phil with Jim Nantz and company and whatever else. And he was going, man, Brett's about to retire. It's not long. This is the greatest thrower of the football I've ever seen in my life. Man, let me enjoy this last practice. And then, 2 years later, he goes back up to Green Bay and sees Aaron Rodgers. And I can still remember my dad calling me going, Christopher, Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I've never seen anybody throw the ball like him in my life. It's unbelievable, blah, blah, blah. And that's the kind of talent Aaron Rodgers has, and it's special. It was special. It still is special, but not like it was in his prime, of course.
The great unknown, though, if you drop him into New England.
Yeah, I hear you.
For how long would he have tolerated Bill Belichick? Would Belichick have changed his approach?
Yeah, right.
Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
I mean, look, they made exceptions for LT back in the day.
That's right.
Would Belichick have tiptoed around the delicate genius, or would Belichick have treated Rodgers the way he treated Brady? And it's an interesting sociological question because people who will bully others or treat them badly, like Belichick did with Brady, he knew he could.
Yes.
He knew that Brady could take it.
Right.
And he knew that it was a useful message to send to the rest of the meeting room when on the first day Randy Moss is there in 2007, or the first day Chad Johnson is there in 2011. He berates Brady in front of them, and they're like, well, he says that about them. I better straighten up and fly right in New England. If that doesn't work with Rodgers, Belichick's probably going to back off, I would think, because he's got this guy who's one of the all-time great throwers of the football. He's not going to ride him in a way that kills the golden goose.
That's right. I mean, he didn't treat Cam Newton like he treated Tom Brady, right?
No, he just cut him.
Well, yeah. Back to COVID after Cam decided to take the rules of the league into his own hands too. But no, I think that was the part of the great psychology of Belichick, because he knew what buttons to push on each guy, right? As we've talked about so much. And yeah, I hear you. It's a great conversation. How that could have gone down, what would have gone down if Rodgers and Belichick were ever together.
And it's just another reminder as we see what these rookie quarterbacks will or won't do in their first NFL seasons. You really are stuck with the hand you're dealt when you're honor and a privilege drafted to an NFL team, because that infrastructure around you goes a long way toward determining what happens with your career. And some teams just keep screwing guys up.
Right.
You know, I don't know what's going to happen with Zach Wilson. I don't know what's going to happen with Sam Darnold, but they both broke into the league as first-round picks to the New York Jets. And how much of the Jets screwing them up contribute to the fact that they are where they currently are right now? And, you know, would the Jets have screwed up Patrick Mahomes if they would have had him? So it's something to remember. We have expectations for these young players, but some of these guys are in better spots than others, and it's going to show in time.
No doubt.
And we're gonna give the credit to the player, but you got to realize you start flipping guys around.
Exactly.
You take this guy out of here and you put the other guy in there, the other guy becomes the star.
That's what's brutal about football. I say that to young kids. I say it to my son all the time, right? Sometimes when I try to give him a little nudge and go, hey, baseball, you know, you can make a lot of money and play for a long time and be really good. And, you know, where it's different is, like, to your point, you know, football, you could be the best player. You could be the best player in football. And if you're on a crap team, nobody will know it. It's just you're not going to be able to show it, right? You got to have some sort of support system there, right, to see the talents of the player. And we see that time and time again. Yeah. I mean, do I think Barry Sanders would have rushed for an extra 5,000 yards if he was with Dallas Cowboys behind that offensive line rather than, you know, the Detroit Lions and all that? Absolutely. And that's no disrespect to Emmitt Smith. It's just that Barry Sanders was special, and he was stuck in, you know, a place where the teams weren't that great and that dominant and all that. So, yeah, these are always great conversations to have.
And to take your point a step farther, you could be the best player in football, and no one will even know you're good with certain teams.
Exactly right.
Barry Sanders was able to overcome everything around him.
Right.
There are players out there that are really good, and they can't even begin to show it where they are, and you put them somewhere else and they're perennial all-pro. And again, you need a multiverse to see all the different ways that the NFL could play out when you move these guys around, but that is a very real factor, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of the draft, because I think these guys coming out, the best players coming out, should be able to say, you know what, I think I'm going to flourish here. I think I'm going to fail here. I don't want to go here. It's going to be a lot harder for me to show my talents and achieve my objectives here. I'd rather go over here. And keep that in mind as we assess and judge and decide, because that's all these quarterbacks, you know, we talked about them yesterday. Hey, this guy's good, this guy's good. Well, but some of them are going to win and some of them are going to lose. Some of them are going to be good and some of them aren't going to be good. That's just the way it works out when it's time to play NFL games. And it's so much about what's around you. And back to the point you made here and you've made in this space for the past 7 years, Aaron Rodgers got dealt a bad hand in Green Bay, and he made the most out of it.
Yeah, he did. I mean, you know, lack of first-round receivers. They had a good team there. Never big free agent signings, anything like that, right? Defense really was never one, you know, other than the year they won the Super Bowl, where you could look at and go, oh, it's a dominant top defense in football, right? So, yeah, I mean, again, he carried that franchise for a period of time. He really did. He made them bigger and put them in a Super Bowl window and conversation because he was so great that he could take a team that maybe was a wild card team or a fringe playoff team, and we all thought, man, they could go to the Super Bowl with him at quarterback. And that to me is a special player. But, yeah, always great conversations. Come on, anybody's crazy out there to think, you don't think Dan Marino would have won a Super Bowl if he was on the 49ers? Again, I'm not disrespecting Joe Montana. I'm just trying to say, hey, Dan Marino, you know, just because he won no Super Bowl, he's not 4 times less than Joe Montana. That's my point. That's where football's tough. It's a tough business, and a lot of guys have had to deal with some unfortunate circumstances.
And again, but for the fact that the 49ers traded for O.J. Simpson and gave up a future first-round pick, Big Phil could have been Joe Montana.
Yeah, seriously.
And Big Phil,
right.
Big Phil could have done in that offense what Joe Montana did. I mean, you could argue Big Phil had more natural skills and natural talent, you know, throwing the football, et cetera, than Joe Montana. Just wasn't in that system, didn't get the benefit of Jerry Rice and growing and developing and reps and confidence, and you get better and you get better and you win a championship and you get more confident, and it all just rolls downhill like it did for the 49ers. One more quote to your point. And you know, and no wonder why the Packers don't talk to you anymore. The offense is elementary. Simms said, me and Dad would be watching Packers film during the season and saying, this offense couldn't be any more basic. It couldn't be any more elementary if it were the third day of training camp. Really, what they've been doing, asking Rodgers to do for that long period of time, is drop back, make a bunch of people miss, and throw a laser from across the field that almost nobody else in the world can throw. So, wow.
Yeah.
Multiple quotes from Christopher David Simms.
Wow.
Out of the are you more likely to read a book where you've actually been quoted in the book?
No, absolutely not. I cringe when you read it. I cringe when I hear my voice on social media or a video. I'm like the opposite of that. I'm like, ugh, get me off. My wife sometimes will be looking at my social media while I'm sitting on the couch at night, and I'm like, I don't want to hear me. Please get that out of here. So I'm not like that. Yeah.
I do it too. My wife will play a clip from the show, and it's like, please turn that off before I take that computer and throw it out the window.
Exactly.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.